Another mystery buried deep in the hills of eastern Washington keeps resurfacing, a bottomless pit said to be a pathway to the paranormal.
Imagine falling into a hole with heights 2 or more times the height of a cruising airplane. It's like falling into an everlasting void with no bottom. Ever thought of such before? Well, it's exactly what a man named Mel Waters claimed he found in his property in eastern Washington state, after lowering over 15 miles of fishing line. The hole is so deep such that it's said to be bottomless. No one knows exactly how deep it goes, but rumors swirl of strange noises, disappearing objects, and even whispers of a hidden world beneath the surface. This isn't just some local legend, folks. Mel's Hole is a real place, located in the remote, rugged landscape of Manashtash Ridge, eastern Washington, and it's been attracting attention from explorers, scientists, and conspiracy theorists alike. Recently, a drone was sent into this mysterious hole, and what was uncovered is not so friendly. But what's the truth? Is it just a natural phenomenon? Or is something more sinister lurking in the depths? Join me on this journey as we delve into the enigmatic findings that a drone just uncovered while it was sent into Mel's Hole. The conspiracy behind Mel's Hole has captured the interest of people for decades, with questions popping up whether the hole actually exists. Mel owns this property, which he claims he purchased from couples who had owned this property for over 30 years before acquiring, as confirmed by nearby residents too. The first question you might want to ask is, didn't the previous owner of the property found out this hole was in his property? Well, they did, but they thought it was just an ordinary hole, so they weren't curious enough to find out about the hole. However, when Mel purchased this property, he was curious enough to find out things concerning his newly acquired property when he stumbled upon this mysterious pit. When the story of Mel's Hole first emerged in the early 1980s, one of the most captivating aspects was the idea that the hole had no discernible bottom. This fueled fascination and speculation about the nature of the mysterious geographic feature. Accounts from individuals who claimed to have personal experience with Mel's Hole described lowering objects into the opening and not being able to detect them hitting the bottom, even after minutes or even hours of falling. This led to the belief that the hole could truly be bottomless, potentially extending miles down into the Earth's crust. The concept of a bottomless pit has long captured the human imagination, appearing in various mythologies and legends around the world. The idea that such a phenomenon could exist in the modern era, in a relatively accessible location, only added to the intrigue surrounding Mel's Hole. Speculation ran wild about what might lie at the bottom of such an unfathomable depth: hidden chambers, lost civilizations, or even portals to other dimensions. Some theorized that the hole could be a natural gateway to the inner hollow of the Earth, a concept rooted in fringe science theories. The possibility of Mel's Hole being an actual bottomless pit captivated both skeptics and believers alike. It challenged conventional understandings of geology and physics, sparking intense debates and investigations into the veracity of the claims. While later research has suggested the hole may not be truly bottomless, the initial reports of its apparent depth and the inability to measure its full extent cemented Mel's Hole as a tantalizing mystery that continues to intrigue and perplex those fascinated by the unexplained. Despite the initial fascination with the idea of Mel's Hole being a true bottomless pit, more recent investigations have cast doubt on this extraordinary claim. Through scientific exploration and research, it has become clear that the hole is not in fact an endless abyss, but rather an extremely deep yet finite natural geological feature. One of the key pieces of evidence that undermined the bottomless hypothesis was the use of more advanced surveying and measurement techniques. By lowering specialized equipment and sensors into the hole, researchers were able to determine that it does indeed have a measurable depth, about one that is still remarkably profound. Estimates suggest the hole extends several thousand feet, or even miles, into the Earth's subsurface. This is undoubtedly an impressive and unusual natural formation, but it falls short of the fantastical notion of a hole with no discernible bottom. Further analysis of the hole's geological characteristics has revealed that it is likely the result of natural processes, such as erosion and the collapse of underground cavities, or possibly a volcanic tunnel magma track. While its exact origins remain somewhat unclear, there is no evidence to suggest the hole was created by supernatural or extraterrestrial forces, as some had speculated. The deflation of the bottomless myth surrounding Mel's Hole has not entirely diminished the fascination with this unique geological feature. However, it has shifted the focus of investigation towards understanding the hole as a rare but explainable natural phenomenon, rather than a portal to the unknown. This more grounded, scientific approach has helped provide a clearer picture of Mel's Hole, even if the full extent of its mysteries has yet to be fully unraveled. But the fascinating part is that, as researchers have delved deeper into the mysteries of Mel's Hole, one of the most concerning discoveries has been the detection of high levels of radiation emanating from within the depths of the hole. This finding has serious implications for the potential hazards associated with the site, and it has caused a lot of conspiracies as why would a natural formation of such has high radiations and electromagnetic distortions. Measurements taken by scientists using specialized equipment have revealed that the radiation levels near and within the hole are significantly elevated compared to normal background radiation levels in the surrounding area. In some cases, the readings have been high enough to pose an immediate threat to human health and safety. The exact source of the radiation is not entirely clear, but it is suspected to be related to the unusual geological composition and structure of the hole itself. It's possible that the hole is acting as a conduit for the release of naturally occurring radioactive materials from deep within the Earth's crust. This poses a substantial risk to anyone who may attempt to directly investigate or interact with the hole. Prolonged exposure to the elevated radiation levels could lead to serious health consequences, such as radiation sickness, increased cancer risk, and other debilitating effects. As a result, access to the site has been heavily restricted, and extensive safety precautions are required for any authorized research or monitoring activities in the vicinity of Mel's Hole. The high radiation environment has added an additional layer of complexity and danger to the ongoing efforts to understand the true nature of this enigmatic geological feature. Other conspiracy theories that abound as a result of this incident suggested that this pit could be a gateway to hell, or possibly another extraterrestrial realm. Mel Waters and his neighbors all spoke about these bizarre occurrences. But what is fascinating about this aspect is that, despite these high rates of radiation, Mel's neighbors claimed this hole rather gave life to a dead animal that was thrown into the hole, bringing a lot of questions as, how would a dead animal possibly come back alive from such a deadly, bottomless, highly radiative atmosphere? When Mel appeared on the top radio show at Coast to Coast AM, he revealed these bizarre occurrences happening near the mysterious pit. The enigma of Mel's Hole. When Mel first walked up to the hole, he wanted to take a closer look and measure it. He found that the opening of the hole was very wide, a full 9 feet across. This meant it was a huge gaping hole in the ground. Around the outside of the big circular opening was something that went all the way around a stone wall. This wall was made of rocks and was placed there neatly in a circle. The wall went about 15 feet out from the hole. Beyond the stone retaining wall, there was nothing but complete and total darkness inside the hole. Mel could not see a single thing past the edge of the opening. It was like looking into a deep dark void. Because it was so dark, at first Mel had no idea how deep the hole actually went or if there was a bottom at all. He wanted to try and figure this out, but just by looking in, the darkness prevented him from seeing to the bottom with his eyes. This huge hole that was perfectly circular, at least 9 feet wide, with a surrounding 15-foot stone wall, and complete darkness below the opening beyond what his eyes could see, really puzzled Mel. He became very curious to try and find the depth and see if it truly had no bottom end. Since Mel couldn't see to the bottom of the hole just by looking, he wanted to try some experiments to figure out more about its depth. To start, he got an idea to use the hole as a place to dump garbage from around his property. Mel and the other locals began throwing all sorts of trash into the hole. This included normal, everyday household rubbish like food scraps and packaging. But they also tossed in bigger things that would make noise if they hit bottom, like broken appliances, old tires, and other junk. Even though a lot of debris in the form of trash was thrown down into the hole over time, Mel noticed something strange. He never heard any of the items hitting the bottom with a loud thud or bang, even though some of the bigger pieces should have made noise. You would expect at least some sounds to echo up from so far below as things fell and hit against the side of the hole or a bottom. But there was only silence every time. Another odd thing Mel saw was that despite putting so much garbage into the hole, it never seemed to get filled up at all. The opening at the top always looked the same size. It was like the trash was disappearing into some kind of endless empty space below. This added even more mystery to how deep the hole really went, and if it truly had no bottom end that things could reach. After making his initial observations about the strange hole on his property, Mel began to notice some weird things happening around the area. Whenever he brought his dogs near the site of the hole, they acted very unusual. Normally his dogs were friendly, calm, and relaxed. But as soon as they got close to the hole, their behavior changed completely. The dogs seemed unusually anxious and afraid. They didn't want to get anywhere near the opening of the hole and would try to pull Mel away from it. Their tails would be tucked and they let out little whimpers, showing they were nervous or scared. This was odd because his dogs had never acted that way before in any other spots on the land. Mel also started having issues with electronics when he brought them close to the hole. As someone who enjoyed ham radio as a hobby, he often had a radio on hand. But Mel found that, as soon as he brought a radio within about 50 feet of the hole, the reception would get severely degraded and messed up. Lots of static interference would overwhelm the radio, making it nearly impossible to tune in to any stations clearly. This had never happened to Mel's radios in that area before either. It was unusual because usually radios worked the same everywhere on his property. Now there was clearly some strong electromagnetic force near the hole that was affecting them. Mel was determined to try and find the real depth of the mysterious hole on his property. With his background in fishing, he had an idea to use some of his fishing line and weights for an experiment. For his first test, Mel carefully selected a heavy fishing weight used commonly by anglers called a 1-pound lead weight. He securely tied the weight to the end of a very long fishing line, being careful to let the line out smoothly as he lowered it down. Even as the line disappeared into the black void, dropping end over end, Mel noticed something strange. No matter how far he let the line descend into the hole, it did not seem to stop or meet any resistance that would indicate it had hit the bottom. By the time the entire 4,500-foot spool of line was emptied out, there was still only empty space below where the weight dangled. When Mel began reeling the line back in to retrieve the weight, he was even more perplexed. The weight appeared completely dry, with no signs of having touched any water below. If it had really fallen such an immense distance, you would expect it to have at least encountered some groundwater at the base of the hole. But the weight showed no evidence of contacting anything at all during its long descent down the hole. For his next experiment, Mel attached something different to the end of the fishing line instead of the lead weight, a roll of Lifesavers candy. He carefully lowered this down the hole, paying close attention just as before. Yet again, as the line played out end over end, the entire length simply disappeared into the darkness with no signs of resistance. When Mel started reeling the line back in to retrieve what he had sent down, he expected the Lifesavers to at least be wet by now if the weight had truly encountered water further below. However, to his surprise, the candies were completely dry when he pulled them up. They showed no evidence of ever coming into contact with any liquid inside the hole, even after descending such an immense distance. This confused Mel even more. If the hole extended so far down that over 4,500 feet of line could disappear within it, surely some form of groundwater or moisture should exist at the bottom, even if deep underground. But both items he had lowered, the lead weight and now the Lifesavers, exhibited no signs of touching anything at all, remaining as dry as if they had never left the surface. It was like they were suspended in empty space the whole time rather than falling through a cylindrical hole that pierced deep into the earth. No impacts were heard, and no water or other substance seemed to lie at the base of this endless shaft. The lack of any resistance even after such extensive line lengths really perplexed Mel, as it went against all logical explanations. Still determined to solve the enigma, Mel resolved to devise an even more extensive test using greater lengths of line. But so far, all of his experiments had only deepened the mystery rather than provided an answer to the question of what truly existed so far below the surface at the bottom of this bizarre bottomless pit. For his next experiment, Mel decided to link multiple spools of fishing line together to ensure it was longer than before, to be lowered down the hole. He spent days purposely attaching one spool to the next, creating a makeshift mega line that provided many times the distance of a single spool. Once the line was prepared, Mel began carefully lowering it out into the hole. Just like before, the line simply snaked its way endlessly into the darkness without resistance. But this time, Mel was able to let out an incredible amount, over 10,000 feet in total length. To put that in perspective, 10,000 feet is nearly 2 miles worth of line descending straight down. And still, as Mel watched the last of the line play out of sight below, there was no sign that it had reached any bottom surface even after plummeting such an immense distance. Baffled by these results, Mel started reeling the line back in. But to his further astonishment, the end of the line emerged just as dry and undisturbed as it had gone down. According to Mel's explanation, he was still determined to get into the bottom of the pit. However, at this point, Mel was truly stumped. All logic said that with a distance of over 2 miles, the line should have encountered some type of matter, whether soil, rock, or water filling the base of the hole. Yet every test indicated only empty space extending endlessly downwards. Perplexed but still curious, Mel realized he would need much more line to finally solve this incredible enigma. Mel was determined to devise an even more extensive test using the greatest length of line possible. Over the next several days, he worked meticulously, joining dozens of fishing line spools together. His goal was to create the longest continuous line he could manage for lowering down the hole. The effort took immense time and care. Mel had to carefully attach one spool to the next, winding the lines together to prevent knots or weak points. By the time he was finished, Mel had amassed a truly immense makeshift megaline, comprised of an incredible cumulative length. When fully extended, Mel's joined lines measured out to over 15 miles or 24 kilometers in total distance. To put that in perspective, 15 miles is the length of over 78 football fields placed end to end. It was an extraordinarily long, continuous piece of line that had the potential to probe farther than ever before. The deepest point in the ocean is only 11 kilometers deep. Lowering a 24 kilometers line without reaching the bottom would be a matter of paranormal. With his elaborate line system now complete, Mel began the process of slowly and carefully paying it all out into the mysterious hole bit by bit. Just as the tests with single spools and joined lines previously, the 15-mile length simply played out without any resistance detected. No matter how far Mel let the line descend or how much played out, there was never any feedback through the line that the end had reached a bottom surface. By the conclusion of this monumental test, the full 15+ miles had vanished entirely into the endless void below. At this point, even Mel was forced to admit he was faced with a true mystery that had defeated all conventional explanations. With over 15 miles probing the depths to no avail, by all logic something should have been encountered down there. But the hole maintained its baffling secret, continuing to defeat all of Mel's attempts to finally reach its hypothetical bottom. Listeners of the radio show were puzzled when they heard Mel Water describe these phenomena. Later, in the 1990s, a Basque family living in a small village in Spain discovered a strange pit near their home. The Basque people are from the mountainous region between Spain and France and have their own unique culture. This pit the family found was surrounded by a weird metallic ring. It had the unusual property of canceling out any sound around it. Even the animals were afraid to go near it. Curious to learn more, the family decided to experiment with the pit. They brought home some ice from the pit to use for heating during the winter. But strangely, the ice did not behave normally. Instead of freezing, it got warm and suddenly burst into flames. This kept happening every time they tried it. News of this fire-starting pit reached Mel Waters, the man who first spoke about the mysterious pit in Washington called Mel's Hole. He was fascinated by their story, as his pit also did not behave like a normal hole. Mel and the Basque family joined forces to try and uncover the secrets of these strange pits. They conducted more tests and experiments near the Basque village pit. In one experiment, they lowered a sheep named Pit 12 into the hole using a crane. At first, the sheep struggled and cried out, but it became quiet as it went deeper. When they pulled it out, Sadly, the sheep had died even though its body had no injuries. After examining the sheep closely, they found its internal organs were damaged somehow. This confused Mel and the villagers further because nothing visible harmed the sheep. Another time, a stove belonging to one of the villagers started sinking into the ground near the pit for no reason. Then strange aircraft were seen flying low over the area. Despite the dangers and mysteries, Mel Waters and the determined Basque people continued their investigations. Unfortunately, Mel later disappeared without a trace in 2002 after his final radio interview. To this day, the fate of Mel Waters and the true secrets of these unusual pits remain unknown. In his final radio appearance before disappearing, Mel Waters shared more strange occurrences from the Basque village. He said during one experiment examining a strange creature, the villagers made an unusual discovery. While dissecting an animal near the pit, they found a creature inside it attached to the animal's organs by an umbilical cord. This creature was about 18 inches long and resembled a hybrid of a seal and a human. Surprisingly, when one of the villagers made eye contact with it, the creature emitted a calming presence. Moved by this, the villagers decided to spare its life. They released it back into the mysterious pit. After this encounter, Mel Waters, who had been battling cancer, experienced an unexpected recovery from his illness. The Basque elders gifted him a coin with President Roosevelt's face on it as a symbol of his healing. This strengthened Mel's belief that the creature played a role in curing him. As a sign of respect, the villagers laid the remains of the dead sheep from their earlier experiment into the pit. They felt the area had a special spiritual significance. This whole sequence of profound events deepened Mel and the villagers' understanding of life's interconnectedness. Following Mel's final radio interview, an Australian official became very interested in Mel's accounts. He urgently contacted Mel asking for the location of the Basque village and the cabin involved in the strange incidents. The cabin owner agreed to allow the official to investigate, but wanted to maintain a safe distance. When the official arrived, he brought heavy construction equipment like cranes. They struggled at first, but eventually used chains and water to lift the sinking stove onto a truck and remove it. Mel Waters believed these events connected to a fictional substance from a novel called Ice 9. In the story, Ice 9 was a material that could freeze all of Earth's water if misused. This added another mysterious layer to the already bizarre circumstances in the Basque village. The locals also claimed they tried using a boombox to record any messages from the pit's supernatural creature. However, all they captured were strange pulsating tones. This kept the area shrouded in mystical intrigue. Based on the available information, there are a few reports of individuals who have claimed to have flown over the purported location of Mel's hole and noticed that the exact spot was sealed or obscured. In 2012, self-described intertribal medicine man Gerald Osborne, also known as Red Elk, told reporters that he had visited the Mel's hole location many times since 1961. He claimed that the US government had maintained a top-secret base there where alien activity was occurring and that the area had been blocked out on Google Maps. Also, some individuals claims they flew over Mel Hole's location and realized that the exact location of the hole as seen in their radar scanner was sealed, and the radar couldn't detect anything beneath. In 2002, a group of around 30 people led by Gerald Osborne attempted an expedition to find the hole, but were unable to locate it. Local news reporters who investigated the claims also found no public records of anyone named Mel Waters ever residing in or owning property in Kittitas County, where the hole was supposedly located. Geologist Jack Powell stated that the hole does not exist and is geologically impossible, suggesting that an ordinary old mine shaft on private property was likely the inspiration for the stories. He commented that Mel's hole had established itself as a legend, based on no evidence at all. Mel Water himself never appeared in public views, since he chose to be anonymous, making us to reconsider his claim as a matter of fiction. However, Mel Water never sold anything from his story, not even a novel. So it questioned a lot of people as why would someone frame a story for fancy and not monetize it? Recently, a group of drone enthusiasts who decided to stay anonymous revealed that they visited the exact location of Mel's hole, as he described in his podcast with Art Bell, and what they discovered might get you nervous. As they lowered their camera, they noticed the hole was just a few meters deep, where the bottom can be seen during a clear sky. What wonders me is, why would someone create a fictional story just for fancy? Well, he might just want to grab the public's attention. If you believe with me that Mel's hole is a fictional story, then click the subscribe button. But if you believe the original hole has been deliberately sealed by the government, then like the video. Well, that's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to click the video on your screen. You won't believe it, it's amazing.